both so much for taking the time to speak with me. It is an absolute pleasure. So we'll start off really simply and we'll begin with you, Damien. How are you today?
Good, thank you, Carl. Good to be here.
And Andy, how about you? How are you doing today?
Yeah, pretty good. I've not long finished work and it's raining, so yeah, typical Birmingham. But yeah, all good, thank you.
Well, I'm in London and it's no better. It's been raining all day as well. It's the
No,
UK, right?
that's it.
Mm.
Damien, what's been keeping you busy as of late?
Right. Just lately, just been working on some new tracks, some new sort of elements of tracks. I sort of work on elements of tracks,
Hmm.
and I try to work them and sort of push them along until something else appears, something that you didn't hear before. The sort of devil's in
Okay.
the details, and basically, I really believe that the more that you sort of work something, you can sort of keep pushing it, then something else appears that
Hmm.
it may not have been your original intention. So there's been a lot of that at the moment, and looking at all sorts of elements. It's not just the guitars or bass. There's also percussion sounds as well.
Hmm.
Same thing. Plus sampling, field samples. That's something that's always ongoing. It's something where you record something and look for little elements that maybe
Hmm.
were a little bit hidden, and you want to amplify them, maybe loop them, those sort of things. But, so yeah, pretty much that. Really, business as usual.
Business as usual. A hell of a creative like state of mind you must always be in.
Yeah, and it helps late at night. That
Yeah.
tends to be when it comes alive. It's sort of a different beast. I used to have this thing where forced myself to work really quite early in the day,
Hmm.
because every time later on, when a few hours have passed, or even the next day, you've got no memory of what you've just worked on, and it's a completely different thing. But either way, I do prefer to sort of assemble things personally late at night, and also listen to a lot of radio, listen to a lot of music as well late at night as well. But generally, it tends to be a lot more sort of oh goodness me, it tends to fit this sort of music as well, to work
Hmm.
late night. And I also find as we sort of head in towards winter, I mean, it's a bit of a cliche, but when it gets into the colder months, it's even better. Um, in terms of when you got a Sunday afternoon and it's
Yeah.
dark, sort of 4 o'clock. It's a great time to work, this sort of thing. I'm probably one of the rare people that sort of actually anticipates that time of year. Quite like it, to be honest.
It does feel like a rarity. Andy, are you the type to anticipate this time of the year, the darker, the longer nights?
I do prefer the cold. I prefer being too cold than too hot.
Yeah, good
100%.
point.
Yeah. And I do like I do most of my stuff at night as well, to be honest. Um, Various factors, I suppose, time and stuff like that. But it does seem to fit better at night. Um, there's a lot of strange sort of we've got strange wildlife at the back of our house that seems to come alive at
Okay.
night as well. Lots of rustling, and it just adds to that sort of texture and atmosphere of the whole thing. And it just is, it's that little bit more inspiring to do stuff when it's dark and cold.
This is fascinating. I'm conjuring up some great images of 2 o'clock in the morning. You're both peering out into the darkness, holding microphones up, desperately trying to find those atmospheric sounds. It's incredible.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, sounds amazing. Yeah, that's pretty much, yeah. That's what happens.
There it is. Of course, the big and all important news is the release of your brand new album. Many things afflict us, few things console us. Released on September 20th, 2024 by Cold Spring Records. It is, of course, very early days. It is only the 8th of October as of the time of recording, so it's been just a few weeks. So, Andy, starting with you first, how have you found the reaction to it so far?
It's been fascinating.
Hmm.
We've been reviewed by sort of people were expecting more of the same, and I've been a little bit surprised that there's sort of more noise on there. We've been reviewed by people expecting it to be a metal album, and they're
Hmm.
surprised. So it's been great, really. Um, every review has been positive to a certain a lesser or greater extent, which is really encouraging. Um, but yeah, so far it's been fascinating, especially the metal reviews when they're not quite sure what to what to make of it.
How about you, Damien? Have you got anything to add there? Have you noticed anything particular from a reaction perspective?
Yeah, I mean, people do pick up on certain things, and also certain things about it which I personally have forgotten about. They'll pick up on a certain track, and you think, oh, okay, and you'll remember when the track came to be. You had a certain mindset about it, and I suppose what I'm trying to say is that people have picked up on the nuances, the sort of
Hmm.
details, um, which is great. And also, yeah, as Andy said, it's been some, I think, just really refreshing insights into it. It did take it sort of evolved over time, this record as well, and it does have its own vibe, and all the albums differ, but this
Yeah.
one sort of has it goes into uncharted territories, definitely. But overall, the reception I think's been, yeah, really good, really interesting to read.
Well, it's really, we both mentioned the same sort of thing that you're noticing listeners, reviewers, whatever, are all kind of noticing or picking up on common themes, so to speak, in regards to how they're reacting to it. What are those themes that you've noticed? Is it like favorite moments, feelings, a specific track?
Yeah, I mean, one person in particular picked up sort of a Joy Division influence in one of the
Mm.
tracks, and that's super great. Um, I can remember again. That's the thing. Your mind goes back, and we were sort of discussing something once, and it may have been Joy Division, may have been DAF,
Hmm.
this sort of post punk sort of thing, and it was very much a case of let's try something like that. And the track in question came around pretty quickly, which was a lot of fun to do that. Um, so the only frustration I've got is you've got this track, and a lot of people would be hearing it, I suppose, maybe digitally or domestically, in their own place. They're hearing it,
Hmm.
whereas I personally would love to hear it coming through a series PA. I'd like to
All
hear
right.
it live. In other words, we haven't done some of the tracks here. Some of them we have
Hmm.
played, but some of them I'd really like to hear live, and I would like other people to hear it live. This sort of to have it delivered properly, if you know what I mean. It's
Hmm.
maybe that's an eternal frustration.
I think with
Do you agree with that, Andy?
yeah, I think that the track Transfixed is the one. It's got this definite Peter Hook sort of bass line that was very much, obviously, Damien saying it's inspired by that Joy Division sound.
Hmm.
And there's like wire sort of guitars on there, very short, sharp, almost sampled what guitars that were very much inspired for myself from Wire. So we've got that post punk influence as well as metal, as well as extreme noise. So it's this mixing melting pot that um, I think people I think people enjoy it. The more I speak to people when they go to shows these days,
Yeah.
I think they don't want to see four bands exactly the same. They want to see someone on a laptop, then someone hitting a bit of metal, then a metal band, then someone playing the cello. It just makes it more interesting for me.
Mm.
And so that's melting pot of the album is very much inspired by our inspirations, post punk, metal, noise, uh, atmospherics. glitchy VHS cassette tapes, all up to this stuff.
I mean, I could go with both of you. I 100% agree. Variety, it's a cliche term, but variety is the spice of life, and particularly when it comes to this style of music, the genre-defying stuff that you guys do, it's so damn important, and it is makes the record so much more exciting. I spent a lot of time with it today. It is a fascinating and very interesting, listenable release as well that you just want to dig deeper and deeper into. You know, it's not a one and done. You don't just put it on and then walk away from it. You dig
Mm.
and dig and dig, and you should be very proud of what you've accomplished here. But of course, the work doesn't stop just when you release an album. There's all the stuff around it, the boring stuff that you have to do leading up to a release and afterwards, hence why we're even sitting here right now. Promotion. So I wanted to ask you both individually. Let's start with you, Damien. Has this been a fun record to promote?
All right, yeah, absolutely. Because
Yeah.
there's so much to it, and like I say, I keep going back to little details in it and thinking about it and thinking about how it came to be. So it has absolutely, Carl, because we have had reactions on certain things, some of the noise tracks, some of the spoken word elements, and questions about those. And it's really something you can't quite, I can't quite stress enough is that it's never a case of an album being just a collation of tracks.
Hmm.
It is something which evolves, and it's exactly the same with the live process. You know, we have discussions about the what tracks to play, and it's never a case of one, two, three, four, and then start the songs, you know, in a row, and then you finish on something and say, right, thank you, good night. It is actually something which I don't know, ebbs and flows. It goes into different sort of it goes into different areas live, and even with the heavy stuff, there's different elements of heaviness. I've it's almost like I it sounds almost spinal tappy, but there's different elements of heaviness.
Yeah.
Sorry, it sort of sounds like a cliche in waiting or something like that, but it really is. There's certain attributes to what sort of I suppose texture or what sort of tone of intensity it's going to take, and so that coming back to the album,
Yeah.
it's the same thing. The tracks aren't just one, two, three, four. There's they've all got a different characters. Great to talk about.
What
I
about
think
you, Andy?
one of the reviews actually mentioned that they said something that you've been deliberately put together in a way to make the listener feel a little bit uneasy. And he
Hmm.
got spot on because it could have just been, four noise tracks, then four heavy tracks, then a bit of ambience, and off you go. But it was deliberately sort of chopped up, and it's doing that unexpected thing, like Damien says, ebb and flow.
Mm.
Not really the audience and the listener not really sure what's going to happen next. You can't tell if there's going to be a nice little bit of acoustic guitar or it's going to
Yeah.
slam in.
Yeah.
And our amps go to 12, by the way, not just 11. So, yeah. But yeah, it's meant to be an experience, the live and the albums themselves.
But was that always the case? So going back to the earliest point of the creative process of this album, what was the vision?
Well,
Um,
yeah.
hmm,
Basically, I think we started with a couple of key tracks, Carl,
Hmm.
and we had I think from memory started with Death Threat and evolved from there. And there was definitely something in those time in that stage to make it sort of very succinct, I guess. And with the title like Death Threat, for example, yeah, I mean that's going to be the case. Um, Andy then came out with Apotropaic out of nowhere, really, which was very much sounding like a Coast track to me, but very different as well, especially with the beats and
Uh-huh.
with the way it attacks. So we pretty much just got in the trenches straight away from that. We just basically thought, right, let's go in. And so then we started to sort of channel the sort of the post-punk thing, but with the noise tracks as well. They were, I think, Andy would agree, like on the noise front, but like we did have a lot of fun with those,
Oh
especially
yeah,
with something like Shard.
yeah,
Oh.
yeah. Love that. Love that sort of stuff. The axe grinder track was amazing as well.
Mm.
Um, we played a show in America, well, a couple with the Terence from Locrian. He does a solo noise project called Axebreaker, and he
Mm.
kindly supplied some vocals for the one track, and that was, I think, so I think Damien described it, he's like he's lost in this some maelstrom of noise whirling around his head, and that was an amazing track just that came together.
Yeah,
Um,
building it up. There was a real battle, like it's
Yeah.
like a really good one. It was like you sort of like you caught in this like a sandstorm or something. You're trying to find your bearings, and we basically worked that track up with him, and the words came sort of organically as well for that. Like yeah, it was like similarly we did on the last record with Stephen Malander. Um, worked with him on what the word should be,
Hmm.
and evolved those like really enjoyably. I think I had a mental image too of what he was like live, Axebreaker, because it was easily one of the best. I never liked to pigeonhole, like, say, oh, noise act, because he's an
Yeah.
organic, he's a performer. His gear, his presence is totally his work is unique, and it was such an experience to watch him just go for it, with what he does. So it was great to have him present in this,
Yeah.
and I like that. Like the thing about the album having presences, it's a little bit of like a paranormal type thing. We're channeling the presence of sort of Axebreaker here, or um, Jo Quail. We've got these presences that appear, and calling them forward. That's
Yeah.
I think that's the coast world to an
yeah,
extent.
Stephen Burrows is another one.
That's
He
right.
appears on a few tracks, and there's always snippets of him live, so he's always there, sort of hovering, if you like, in the shadows, waiting
Yeah,
to come forth. And
he
it's
certainly is.
But what a fabulous way to describe it as well, because again, it creates imagery in your head, and as much of course sonically, what you do can create an atmosphere and the feel and the vibe and all that. Obviously, visually as well, you kind of want to create something in people's head, right? An image of what Coast is.
Mm. Yeah, it's true. I mean, like from the start, like literally the first gig, it really didn't feel like a normal band. um, we just I think we'd rehearsed maybe once, and then we'd gone for it, and it clicked. But it was a great sort of, it was at the Asylum in Birmingham. So that part of town, that gig's great. It's always the real McCoy there, and we I happened to bring along a banged up old laptop with me because I wanted to. I thought on the spur of the moment, like get some visuals on the screen of the laptop, and I couldn't. I
Yeah.
didn't have a projector, and so stuck it at the back on top of an amp and press play. And I didn't really think about it too much, but the thing is, you could see in one of the early reviews, there's like you've got to have some cojones to bring a laptop to a metal festival or an all dayer, as I think it was. And I suddenly realized, oh, it may have looked like we were making a statement, bringing a laptop,
Ah.
electronica, but it wasn't the case. And anyway, it just all started to fit. And those sort of things and the way the set sort of rolled out for that, the first thing really set the stall for, I suppose, how it's always been. And I think, we were getting used to it as well. So we were probably guessing as much as the audience, like, oh gosh, what happens next? But it held together.
I think at that gig as well, like you say, it was an all dayer. and we
Yeah.
happened to have the slot that was just as the sun was going down. So when we came on, it was quite bright, and as we played, it was getting there was a window at the side, and it was just getting darker and darker and darker.
Yeah.
And with the laptop at the back flickering, no drummer. I think people were like, again, what the hell's this? But it really drew people forward because they were interested, which was brilliant.
Yeah.
In the old days, they'd have probably all gone to the bar, and thought, I'm not watching that. I'm here for the metal. But it was great, yeah. And like Damien says, these little things have evolved
Yeah.
over time. Where we introduced the odd show. I play a bit of cornet at the
Mm.
start, which you don't often see.
No.
Grabs people's attention. What's he doing? He's playing the cornet. What's
Yeah. Yeah.
why?
No, there was
Um,
one in Manchester that hit really hard. Actually, it was because it might have been with Author and Punisher, but
Mm.
basically we had the reel to reel as well on the stage. That at that point we're using the reel to reel, which broke down not long after that. But the reel to reels heads, the actual sound heads, were dying. And so it was sounding pretty worn, which is great. And through a big PA, it sounded phenomenal. And then we had the backing that we normally use. And then Andy went for on the cornet through a delay. So it was because we love early throbbing gristle, this sort of thing, made
Yep.
even dub, reggae dub, these sort of like delayed heralding sounds when you
Mm.
get like a long delay. And yeah, that was really cool. And then eventually we started playing. But with the cornet and the sounds, generally they're a fixture now.
Yeah. It's fair to say that, I mean, up to this point, you've basically always been willing to and brave enough to experiment and see what works, not just in the live environment, but obviously on record as well.
Yeah.
yeah, definitely, 100%, 100%.
Oh, yeah, it's true because a lot of the time, especially when you're touring with people like Conan, I mean, like you will get an audience who are looking for something pretty heavy.
Mm.
So you do have to it's like sometimes you think, oh, how's this going to go down? But it generally goes down well. But there's always this thing of let's try this next, let's try that, with in terms of electronic or hooking up all sorts of unexpected instruments. Because it sort of occurred to me some years ago, just like the stage is yours,
Yep.
and it's like you can do anything with the stage. I mean, like get your gear set up, sure, make sure the gear works, but you can still use elements. You can use props. You can bring electronic percussion if you want. Basically, that was a revelation some years ago. Just the stage is yours. Just see what you can do with it. Always, and that's ongoing.
Yeah. What For both of you, what limits your imagination though? Like the bare bones of reality. What limits what you want to do, what you feel you're capable of doing on stage at this point?
Yeah, it's a tricky thing because for me, time is an interesting one
Yeah.
because sometimes if you were to play um like a short set, that would be a challenge for some of the tracks, like to get it going, like really get the turbine moving, if you know what I mean. You need a bit of time.
Mm.
You need the time to do it. And similarly, long sets in terms you have to think about what to do. If you do wall to wall extremity, absolutely, if you can do that for an hour and a half, absolutely great. Some people may not, I don't know, but I like thinking about it. Like, what can you do if it was like an hour and a half?
Mm.
You think about what Metallica can do for 2.5 hours. It is quite incredible. I think what they
Oh
do.
yeah.
Yeah, but in terms of the light and shade, light and shade, in terms of ebbing and flowing,
Yeah.
how they do it, because, it must be tricky to do that, I think. But in general, I think time is an interesting one. And it's something I sort of think about, like what we could do or what's possible in the future too.
Yeah.
It's just
How about you, Andy?
it'd be really good to have more time to set up a stay, even if you were just going to do a half-hour set, to have
Yeah.
more time to set up the the props, as it were. Get the visuals up, get a screen up, get a projector, multiple projectors, um, make it a full-on experience with visuals, projections, slides, reel to reel, everything blasting. But it's just you can't but you can't really set that sort of stuff up if you've got a 15-minute changeover. So
Yeah.
again, it's
There's
time
that,
in
absolutely.
everything.
We got stuck once when we were in Europe once, where we were
Oh.
playing somewhere where we thought, it's like a place in Switzerland. You think, oh, fantastic. But on the day, you just had the usual sort of usual comedy where couldn't we found the venue and couldn't see how to get into it, and because of
Oh.
traffic, had to keep driving. And we thought it's okay, we'll just go around the block.
Of
And then
course.
yeah, and an hour and a half later, we managed to come back because it was just the most convoluted route. And again, because of traffic. And then just like, right, this time, and then slowing down to some crazy like 5 miles an hour or less pace. We are not missing this entrance, you know what I mean? And then it turned out there was a bollard up, and the missing detail in all of this was that we were meant to pull in and then the bollard would be removed, but we didn't
Ah,
realize that at the time. But those sort of things just come at you, I suppose, and those little challenges, you've got to be ready for them.
the life of a touring band.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've become quite expert at doing line checks, I think. We very rarely get a really long sound check. Not that I particularly like long sound checks. It sort of spoils the fun of not knowing what's going to happen. But
Mm.
yeah, line checks seem to be our go-to.
It's difficult sometimes when the sound person doesn't know the sound as well, Carl, because
Okay.
you might meet somebody, they're just doing the sound for a gig, and they're used to miking up, a couple of guitars and a drum kit and whatever, and they get a signal through the PA,
Mm.
but then you look at each other and say that's not really right, but they don't know because they've just come in on the day, they just don't know what they're hearing and probably couldn't care less. But the
Yeah.
thing is, you have to say to them, no, that's meant to be much different than what's coming up there now. So that's another challenge as well, to actually communicate that.
Well, of course, live is such an important part of your makeup, and we should mention, I believe your next set of dates are in November, correct?
Yes.
Yes, so we are talking from the 9th of November across the UK, starting up in Scotland, running all the way through down to Bristol on the 17th, of course, and stopping in my city, London, where you'll be playing the Dev. You're alongside Deep Cross with that
Yeah,
one. How are we feeling about this tour?
I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah,
Really looking forward to it. We had a great time in the States with Deep Cross. We
yeah.
did the sort of East Coast with them, and so this is like a reciprocal tour back. So it'd be great to hook up with those guys again. Except they're a great band. It's very not not similar sounding, but similar guitar, bass, loads of electronics, and a drum machine. So you think,
Yeah.
oh, they're going to be the same, but they sound nothing like us. We sound nothing like them. I couldn't even imagine doing their stuff as well as they do.
Mm.
It's fascinating and really melodic, and then it goes ultra heavy. And so yeah, we're really looking forward to seeing those guys again.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
Doing a couple of shows with Primitive Knots,
Yeah.
who's great. We've played with Jim before, and I think Cremation Lily are playing in London, so that'd be great. Big fan of theirs. I think a friend of yours, Damon's playing in. Is it Newcastle?
Yeah, Birdhouse Lane
Yeah,
as
that's
well.
playing. That's
Awesome.
good. So
That should be
yeah,
great.
should be good.
Yeah, absolutely. Going back to many things afflict us, few things console us. I want to get both your thoughts on this. So start with you, let's say, Andy. We'll start with you. What would success for the new album look like for you?
I think this is it. Getting
Yeah.
it out. Yeah, just the process of actually getting it out so other people hear it. Um, if people like it, great. If they don't, I don't mind. Um, but yeah, this is it really.
Yeah.
Just to get it out there and to get as many people as we can to hear it is a success for me.
Well, there it is. Fabulous. What are you, Damien?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same. I mean, like
Yeah.
in terms of seeing it manifest is very good. And on vinyl, obviously too, is
Oh.
great. Yeah, to see that. But yeah, as Andy said, just like it gets around and people enjoy it. Awesome.
What more? What more is there to ask, really? But of course, you continue to move forward, and we coming to the end of this year. You have the tour in November, and we look into 2025. What's a realistic goal? Starting with you, Damien. A realistic goal that you would like to achieve, perhaps next year.
Um, I generally going back to what I said really at the start in terms of writing is
Hmm.
just to push forward again with the sound. I mean, we sort of already started with some pieces with the writing. It's significant. Um, there's just nothing better than really just writing and having something in your head. I'm a big fan of using, say, recording on the phone,
Yeah.
like or dictaphone. Still use an actual tape dictaphone as well. Just anything I can grab, um, and it's there's just nothing better than just getting there and getting the idea down quickly and getting the sketch down quickly. So to be honest, it's just a really good, solid, coherent release is pretty much what I'm looking forward to. But it'd be just playing, being on the road.
Yeah.
So I've got fairly simple sort of goals, I suppose.
More music, more live dates. Yep, that is a realistic goal. How about you,
That's
Andy?
what more do you need? Yeah, they're pretty much the same.
There it is.
I'd really like to go to America again, and maybe somewhere like Japan and see what that's like. But yeah, the
Oh, that's the
live stuff.
dream, isn't it? I hear
Oh,
Japan a lot.
imagine. Yeah. Um, so yeah, hopefully we're going to get a few more festival dates next year. That's the plan. We've got some guys working that for us. But yeah, just more recording, a lot easier recording as well. Hopefully, I've had so much trouble with PCs and stuff. So I've sort of solved that a little issue, and the recording's becoming a lot quicker now instead of that frustration of things crashing and. But yeah, that's just another story altogether. But yeah, more music, more live stuff.
Fabulous. Okay, before we wrap this up, let's end on a nice little positive one. And it's a reflection, really, more than anything else. When you look back on the period that has been many things afflict us, few things console us, so the entire creative period beginning to end, we'll start with you, Damien. What will be or what is your favorite memory?
I think it's working on apart from the Axebreaker tracker which I
Mm,
mentioned. There's Overrun with Manuel as well because he and I go back some time. He's a great guy based in Berlin.
yeah.
He worked with Oxbow. He's worked with Melt Banana. Um, Previous music over time we've worked together on, and it was great to work on that track Overrun. It was another one similar to the Axebreaker track that had an atmosphere which we pursued
Mm.
um, to harness. And plus, he was really diligent about his voice. And what I mean is, he takes it very seriously, the spoken word. And so I think he actually submitted at least four takes of
Really?
maybe five of the just to, and so it was almost like going through each and rounding them all up into the finished sort of the finished thing. So definitely that track, and it's got a certain mood, and it's also got to me a certain message about the planet, about protecting the planet. And without
Yeah.
going too far down there, it's almost like, what if the certain elements within us that we don't know about because the Earth is ancient? What if there's certain elements that come back to us? And that's where the overrun part comes from. And it's almost like a certain sort of voice, almost marshalling these elements. It's almost like a film thing. But it's almost like a beware, type
Yeah.
thing. And there's an element of threat. There's a specter that's always hanging around in music of Khost, I think. And so that was another sort of thing, another apparition, I suppose, in the big compound that we channeled.
Incredible. How about you, Andy? What be your memory?
I think it's the way Apotropaic came about. My whole idea was just to use a sample from an old post-punk band that I used to like on a track, and it was built around that sample. And because the sample is quite fast, the track was fast, so it was quite an unusual sort of thing for the kind of stuff that we do, to do a really fast, almost black metal sort of vibe to it. And I just kept adding noise, and I thought I'll put a bit of cornet on, and then the lyrics came from sort of nowhere. Um, Strangely enough, dealing in that sort of, another figure in the compound that Damian's just said, Apotropaic about sort of protection. So it's
Yeah.
that other side to it, that we've also got the protection from these people that appear, even though they're our friends. We have to sort of stay a little bit sort of guarded from what we're actually bringing in. So, and that's what the whole lyrics of Apotropaic is about. Building a protection thing, that I could go on for hours, because I'm fascinated with that sort of stuff. But yeah, Apotropaic was the one for me.
It's also
In
one I would say too that as a track, it's great with headphones on. There's a lot of elements in the actual track which are great to listen to. I think it's got cornet buried in there too, Andy, doesn't it?
Yeah, there's cornets, there's noise, there's sort of harsh noise, sine waves, and that sample that's in the background, almost the whole the way through. But yeah, it's an old band I used to love. So, but yeah, Apotropaic is something that fascinates me.
Cool.
There is a lot to unpack. And of course, if anyone wants to understand what we've been talking about, experience what we've been talking about here, the album, Many Things Afflict Us, Few Things Console Us, is out now. Listen to it wherever you bloody can via Cold Spring Records. Damian, Andy, I massively appreciate the time you've given me here. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Carl.
Much appreciated.
Yeah, really, really great.
Thank you very much for watching. If you'd like to see more content like this, please consider hitting the subscribe button. It is gratefully appreciated. You can find us over at gbhbl.com, our full website, where reviews, news, and so much more goes up daily. We're also on all social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, at GBHBL. Just search for GBHBL and you will find us out there. We also have merchandise on sale. You can access the shop via the website.